The cake is growing.
Most people don't know what the WTO is.
But it's also a different cake.
We want to make sure that what is being discussed in Geneva
and the cake is being sliced differently.
Trickles down to the country level.
There are some winners, but also clearly some losers.
Sometimes there are governments that are blaming the WTO for all evils.
The average man on the street is not aware of the benefits of the WTO, which sends a message that the WTO needs to engage more in public diplomacy with civil society and at the grassroots level.
Most people don't know what the WTO is, as we all know, and I'm not sure they really need to. The danger is that essentially politicians or anyone essentially takes advantage of the lack of understanding of what the WTO is.
Sometimes there are governments that are blaming the WTO for all evils. It's the same with the European Union, right? When governments are signing a deal with one hand, and then as soon as they're back home, they pretend that they had nothing to do in this because they don't have the courage to sell it back to their population.
We think that it is important that the WTO is more connected with the people, with the grassroots, and we want to make sure that what is being discussed in Geneva trickles down to the country level. And I want to make the case for parliaments as legislators, as controllers of government action at national level, drivers of accountability. I want to make a case for their role in providing for a more transparent, accountable, equitable, and fair global trading system.
I don't know to what extent having a real discussion with parliamentarians so that what they bring to negotiation is really a political agreement would strengthen their hand to have the courage when they go back home to tell the truth. This was in our interest. And yes, there will be some pain, but there is also some gain, and not blame a transnational organization or anything for what they decided to sign on to.
I think also in terms of selling, let's say the liberal economists have also not done a good job. They've been overselling trade. It's a bigger cake, so everybody should be happy. No, it's indeed the cake is growing, but it's also a different cake, and the cake is being sliced differently. There are some winners, but also clearly some losers.
It's absolutely essential for governments to bring along their own constituencies and stakeholders, the business community, civil society, all of the stakeholders that need to be at the table, environmental groups, labor groups, the whole bit. But that's at the input end. At the output end, only the government can speak for the government. I think we're courting chaos, even much worse than we have today, if we institutionalize a lot of different voices having a seat at the table.
My observation that time as Minister for Trade for the Netherlands was that also the debate was too much dominated by indeed the special interest, and the silent majority again was silent. And it are the employees, it are the consumers, it are citizens which benefit, let's say, from these global trade agreements. So let's make that visible, involve them as much as possible.
The WTO has been highly instrumental in powering the growth and the dynamism of a global economy. But the WTO has also conditioned in a very important way part of the basic ILO mission, which is ensuring that this economic growth is accompanied by parallel social progress and advancement. It is becoming increasingly difficult for trade agreements to be concluded in abstraction of their social, labor, and environmental consequences.